My girlfriend and I are in the talks of getting engaged soon, and she says she expects me to cut off my female friend who introduced us once I propose. My 27 male girlfriend Eva, 25 female, of nearly 6 years, and I were talking about the prospect of getting engaged recently, when she brought up that it was her expectation that once I propose, I'd also cut contact with Leah, 27 female, one of my closest friends, as well as the person who introduced us. For some backstory, Leah and I went to the same middle school and high school, became friends along the way, and had become quite close by graduation. We didn't go to the same college, but we were still in the same area, so we stayed in touch, though we saw each other less frequently. A couple years in, she told me I absolutely had to meet this girl because she just knew I'd like her. She dragged us both Eva and I were and still are introverts, to Leah's social butterfly persona, to a small get-together, introduced us, did some wingmanning, and made herself scarce for the rest of the evening. Spoiler alert, Leah was right and I did like Eva a lot from the get-go. We shared interests, hobbies, a sense of humor, and we clicked from that first evening. Leah made sure to give me every chance to not fumble this by setting up our first date shortly thereafter, and I thankfully, surprisingly, didn't fumble it. Soon enough Eva and I were officially together and in love, moved in together once I got a job, and it felt like a foregone conclusion that eventually we'd get engaged, married and all that stuff. Eva's recent demand came completely out of left field to me, as she had never raised concerns about my friendship with Leah until now, and as far as I could tell counted Leah as a friend of hers as well. Over the course of this relationship, the majority of my in-person interactions with Leah also involved Eva, and we each met with her individually outside of that. To be clear, I'm not denying that I am closer to Leah than Eva is, just saying they're not complete strangers without me in the equation. A key issue Eva raised is that I did once have a crush on Leah. Once in this case refers to when I was 15 and had just gotten to know her, and is something Eva and I discussed within our first month of dating when she asked me if there had ever been anything between us. I didn't hide anything from her. I told her there was a one-sided crush at the very beginning, that had been history for a while and that nothing ever happened. She was fine with that then, and this is the first time she's brought it up since. However, she now says that if she and I are to tie the knot, she does not want someone in our lives who I once had a romantic interest in. She added that she hadn't liked my getting involved in Leah's last serious relationship by telling her to ditch the guy, which I did because she's my friend and the dude was a total jerk, and that while she didn't suspect that anything had happened between me and Leah at this stage, she didn't want to take the chance, especially as Leah now has a pronounced interest in finding someone to settle down with. Eva told me there's no hurry and that this wasn't an ultimatum and didn't want to argue about it, but that I should wrap my head around this ahead of proposing to her, which we weren't talking about as a tomorrow thing, but not something too far in the future either. I haven't talked to Leah, or anyone really, about this yet because I'm still hoping this is something that can be diffused, and bringing her into it now seems counterproductive in that regard, both because it could get her pissed at Eva and Eva pissed at me. I'm really conflicted. On the one hand, Leah is an important friend to me, one who's done a lot for me over the years, brought me out of my shell when I was an awkward teen. On the other hand, by far what I'm most thankful to her for is that she introduced Eva to me, so throwing that away is really a non-starter. But back to the one hand, I don't really feel like Eva is making much of a case here. I'd even be willing to concede that the near-forgotten and short-lived crush could still be a valid argument, but not when it was a non-issue for 6 years. I just don't know how I'm supposed to approach this. Update. So, this weekend, and after getting all my thoughts in order, I let Eva know we needed to talk and what it was about. She initially pushed back, reiterating she didn't want to argue, but I insisted and told her it shouldn't need to be an argument and we should be able to discuss this. I proceeded by telling her that she is the one I love and want to be with, that Leah is still just a friend, albeit an important one, but that I would not be cutting her out of my life, as that was an unreasonable request to make in the absence of inappropriate behavior from either of us. I told her that this stance was final and added that I hoped we'd be able to communicate and get to the bottom of where this all stemmed from and move forward together. She wasn't happy about this, but she didn't shut down the discussion either, and we had a long talk afterwards. Among other things, she again conceded that Leah hadn't done or said anything to cause issues between Eva and I, and that she did actually know that the 12-year-old crush was not really relevant, nor was it a big deal, and she was kinda grasping at straws bringing it up. As it turns out, a bigger factor for her was my involvement in Leah's breakup last year and a perceived change in the aftermath of that. She told me she didn't disagree that the guy was a jerk or even that someone needed to convince Leah to break it off, but that she hadn't been comfortable about the way I'd gone about it. I talked about it in a comment on the original post, but basically I just up and decided to do it myself at some point, went to Leah's place and convinced her she deserved better. At the time, I told Eva I'd be doing that, but didn't consult with her about the how or anything. She went on to say she'd had this sinking feeling that I was not just a friend in Leah's eyes anymore ever since then. She mentioned Leah had been single ever since, not dating much yet, and had voiced a desire to settle down soon, and that I was the guy closest to her. She admitted these things weren't in and of themselves evidence of anything, but that she couldn't shake the feeling. I told her that I didn't think it was the case and that Leah had always been and continued to be supportive of our relationship, and suggested that maybe talking to her about it could help. We put that thought aside for the time being, and I brought up that her request suggested that she didn't really trust me and that was a big issue. Eva didn't really know what to say to that aside from reiterating she wasn't accusing me of having done anything or of having any intention to, that this was about Leah and that if she was right about her seeing me differently now, our proximity would be a problem whether anything happened or not. I told her that I agreed with that last point on principle, but that it all hinged on a basically unsubstantiated if. Lastly, I asked Eva how all this had affected her own friendship with Leah, because I hadn't noticed major changes there. She said she doesn't harbor animosity towards Leah because of the lack of tangible reasons to, but that her suspicions have indeed meant that there had been a definite cooling in that relationship from her side, and described her interactions with Leah as cordial and not much more for the past while. I told her that I wasn't going to demand they be friends, of course, but reiterated that discussing things with Leah might help. I brought up couples therapy at various points throughout this discussion. Eva was initially apprehensive about the idea, but I insisted that it wasn't a matter of doubting my relationship with her, but one of getting qualified counseling to help us get through this stronger than before. We have started looking into it, and this will make it on the agenda once we find someone suitable. End of the day, Eva abandoned the idea of forcing me to cut Leah out of my life at this stage, but we have things to sort through still. I'm glad I was able to actually discuss it with her this time around, and I'm hopeful counseling will provide the help we need. Note: I'd like to thank the people who threw advice my way on the original submission. I don't know that there will be another update, but I owed you this one at least. Sorry if it's a bit of a word salad.